The Houston Dynamo, after an embarrassing loss to the Philadelphia Union, came out with a fighting answer, a fighting spirit, a 1-0 lead against Vancouver in the 6th minute. 87 minutes in, it looked like 3 points were coming to Houston, and then disaster happens. One goal conceded in the 88th, another in stoppage time, and Houston comes back empty-handed. The questions come back up as far as who really bears the fault. How much is on the coach? How much is on the players? How much is there just still too much of a losing culture around Houston Dynamo football club?
Victor, can we please introduce ourselves first? You already said the whole podcast
We're gonna
in
get
like
into all
one
of
breath.
We're going to get into all of this now here on Inside the Hexagon, a podcast brought to you on thestriker.com. That's right. We're more than just Texas now. We're out in California, out in the great state of Georgia with the Atlanta market. Big coverage this week with the MLS All-Star game. So there's plenty to go around the country as it continues to expand. We haven't lost the focus on the USL. Jonathan Chet keeps a weekly report of what's going on in the lower divisions. Obviously, NWSL is covered as well. The Houston Dash are giving Houston fans something to smile about these days. That might look like a winner this year. But yeah,
Lord.
Inside the Hexagon here on the Striker, Victor Araiza, yours truly, and Laura Gomez. Laura, I sense you're
I mean, Victor, you're coming out like guns blazing. I was like, first of all,
I'm just introducing the show.
I'm going to tell you the disaster right now that's going on in Houston weather, because we were supposed to record earlier on, but my lights went out. I had no internet for a couple of minutes. Let's just say that it's been an interesting day. So here we are, but that's a disaster of weather. No rain and then like a million gallons. I want to say gallons.
Did you get that one big thunder strike that sounded like a nuclear bomb?
Look, right now, I'm serious. Like, I have, those security cameras, right? And they always send you like alarms and stuff like that. And there's I think a house in my neighborhood actually that caught fire because one of the what do you call it, lightning strikes. I know. Hopefully you guys are at home, safe, warm, and not outside in the rain. Like Victor that just put the Houston Dynamo outside in the rain for sure with his introduction. But once again, we are here with you guys to break it down and see what happened.
No, look, I was on a few podcasts like this. A radio show with Glenn. The Dynamo Theory guys invited me last night. Kind of went in a little bit with them, and I keep bringing this up too. It's just I'll bring it up here for our listeners. It's it's not just hard work, right? I mean, and especially like again, read the room in a way, right? Read the city. Construction workers in Houston, in the Houston heat, refinery workers in Pasadena. Everybody that's out in the medical center every day. You want to talk about we're going to work hard, and that's going to be your mantra, and then you put out some of those performances for that type of audience, right? That puts their hard-earned money to watch this team. I mean, that's why it's a rough time right now in Houston, right, with Dynamo, and it's been a rough time for years. That's why when people say they want a team that kind of bleeds the jersey, that puts it on for the city, it's not just put the H up and the 713 and listen to rap or whatever you think makes you Houstonian. I mean, it is the fourth largest market, but it is a gritty city as well. And I don't think this team accurately reflects that. That might be part of it, attitude. The other one, we've talked about talent. The other one, some people are still saying, I think especially after this last game, more people are saying, calling for the coach to be fired. I don't know how much that's going to make a big difference.
No, we're going to go back to this again, to like deja vu, Victor. I'm like, oh, wait, we're doing like again.
But let's dive into this game in Vancouver.
Yeah, let's.
What were the problems? What do you think? Just this specific
Well, where do
game?
I start?
I mean, start minute one.
Look. I think the biggest problem for me, and I think this is also the attitude. I think it goes down to attitude as well in a large part, because You're gonna tell me that you score so early on in the game. What was it? Fafa Pico
It
scored
was
in
a
the
lucky
6th
goal, by
minute.
the way. That was a
Yeah,
ball that
it
gets
doesn't
thrown
matter.
in.
It
Kicked
is
in
what
by
it is.
Duncan.
It's a goal. It's inside. I don't at this point, in this season, at this time, in my lifetime, covering the Dynamo, I don't care. It's a goal, right? So like, okay, lucky goal, whatever. 6th minute, okay, we're good. First half, okay, we're good. And you're gonna tell me that within what was it like? I want to say less than 10 minutes time span, they got scored on twice. The first one was in the
At the
88th
end,
minute.
you're
Yeah,
talking about, the goals were about 4 minutes apart each at the end of the game.
exactly. And that I think that's what
But
bothers me, because it also highlights I guess the effort that Vancouver also put in. So Vancouver never let up. Vancouver never gave up. It still had the
yeah,
attitude.
but Vancouver, I still put I'm sorry, I put Vancouver in this kind of group of MLS teams that are kind of trash. No offense.
I mean,
Well, all due
look,
offense to Vancouver. They're not that great.
okay, let's say they're not all that great, but neither is a Dynamo. So let's say this was a subpar game, but I was expecting.
It was. It
Well,
was
that's
good
what I'm
because it was
saying. It was
11 and 12. It was like two.
exactly a
I was
subpar
about to
game,
cut there.
but at this point, it's like
Two.
who's quién es el mejor del peor in Spanish? I would say which one's the best of the worst.
That's exactly
right. And
what this game was.
obviously, we saw what happened. Who was the worst? Because that, for me, no matter who you're going up against, I don't care. I don't care if it's a little league. I don't care if it's my son. I don't even have kids, but my son or my daughter is playing, and you're gonna tell me they're gonna beat you for 2 goals in the last minutes.
Yeah, that's lack of concentration. That's been happening already. To me, the bigger focus is also on the lack of getting a second goal, maybe even a third, putting this game away. And again, losing teams find ways to lose, and this is a losing team. And I think that's the thing about this year.
Please trademark that. That's saying.
We could talk about, well, it's been said all around town, right? And that's what I mean. If you listen, Texans, Rockets, Astros coverage. I mean, that saying's been around. That's why it's, no matter how alive they are mathematically, right? They're 5, 6, 8 points out of the 7th place right now, but it doesn't look like a team that's gonna be a playoff team for as much as the team says that they could qualify. I think, under very perfect margins, if we can call it that way, I agree. If you wanted a more experienced coach, I will say I think maybe this team can get to the playoffs. I will also say,
let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. Analyze again, because it's again. I mean, so you're gonna tell me the last few years the only reason that the team hasn't advanced to playoffs, it's because of the coach? No way.
It isn't the only reason, but there are games that have been lost by coaching, right? And I think
I agree.
That's the focus. This is one of them. I think the way that it's not the decision to go complete defense, right? I think because at the same time you sort of analyze, well, who do you have in attack, right? What are your options? That's where I kind of call as well to the depth of the roster. I do think it's a mix of a couple things, but there are some games this season, right? For example, I don't think coaching is going to win you games against LAFC or against Seattle. They could, but I'm saying I don't think with this roster, the coaching is going to be enough to win you those games, because those teams just have way better players, right? But I think in these games where the teams are more even, that's where coaching does make a difference. I don't think the Vancouver coach was that great either. The strategy, maybe you could say, worked out. Cavallini off the bench for the second half and ends up winning you the game with some of the younger players that Vancouver was in a sense forced to play because of all their absences. But I think especially I think when I would throw this more at some of these rivalry games, the games that are really contested, right? That's when I always kind of look at the coach and say, well, this is the team that's going to win it, because I trust more in this coach. Same thing in a game like this. You have enough good players, I think, to win it. Steve Clark in goal might not be in his best moment, but I think an experienced back line in front of him, a Valentin that hasn't played a lot this year, it's a fresh leg. Tim Parker, Daniel Ferreira playing. That duo, because Hadebe is not cleared medically to play. Sam Junka playing for Adam Lundqvist, which, by the way, I mentioned it here. I don't think Lundqvist has been all that great throughout
No,
his
he's been
time.
For sure. He's been
and not lately, for sure.
Down, yeah.
So I think maybe a change here. Junko might have a little bit more bite. Certainly a little bit, right? I mean, cost the goal where was credited to Fafa Pico, but I think it was we didn't get I think a good enough look on video, but certainly to me it looks like a Junko goal. And then I think the decision here, the start was good, right? Quintero and Herrera in midfield with Darwin Seren, a little bit more balanced than what we've seen, where it's been Seren, Herrera, and Carrasquilla, or Vera, Herrera, and Carrasquilla, right? Because Vera's left a lot to be desired. So I do think from that sense, you had some experience. You had three guys that could generate a little bit of offense for you and be more solid defensively than what you've been. And I mean, it's their fault for not making more of this game. Again, Vancouver gives you the ball. This team was passing the ball around like the Dynamo were passing the ball around like they were Barcelona. For as much as Vancouver might have given the ball away. No, they were stretching through these games where they were just, passing between themselves. And what did it all amount to? It didn't amount to anything. They didn't get a second goal or third goal. There's one where O'Farson maybe, had a good shot, but that's about as good a shot they got other than, the Junka lucky bouncing off the turf. I mean, and those are the little things that I think you can attribute to coaching, right? Better build up play.
I think that too. But
better conversion.
But if we, I guess my problem is this, that I've heard and I've seen a lot of comments of fans of, they want the coach out and blah, blah, blah. But I think, again, like you said, it's something that's deeper than just the coach. I think it's like also the mentality. Maybe the culture needs to change more, because you said it's a losing culture, and it's just again, I feel like we've lived this before as journalists. We've lived this before as Houstonians, and I understand that as a professional, sometimes you like teams better than other teams. You like cities more than other cities that you have to work at. But at the end of the day, you're professional, and it's one thing to say, I don't bleed in and bleed out orange, but I'm going to do the best that I can to my abilities. So my question to you, and also to our listeners, is, does it really come down to the players? Because maybe they're playing to the best of their abilities.
Yeah,
but it's coming short.
Doro Parsons shouldn't be playing on the wing still. I mean, we're in freaking August. That's not his natural position, right? I mean, you got a young guy, Beto Avila, who came up from Dynamo 2. You gave him an MLS contract. You obviously had the faith that he can play at this level. Put a guy that can do that. That way you have a Farson off the bench. If Ferreira is not playing at his top level, but when you have both of those guys out there, I think that part of that is the approach. And on the other hand, that's where I say the depth. When maybe the coach isn't, they're not convinced of Beto Avila. They sure as hell shouldn't be convinced of Corey Barrett. But
exactly.
He still appears on the bench.
So that's what I'm saying.
Memo
at the end of the
was
day,
there and he wasn't used. But again, can you blame them for not playing him? I think there's a lot of things to analyze, right? Ultimately, I think, could you get a little bit more out of this roster? I think so. You should against Vancouver, right? I'm not saying, I'm not blaming them for not winning at Portland or not winning at Seattle, right?
Yeah, but we just said that obviously this game was something that was at least in paper beatable, at least to, the Whitecaps. Obviously, like you mentioned, it's teams that they're not being considered, the best of the best. But even then, I just want to quickly read some of the stats of the game. So let's say, shots. Vancouver had 13, the Dynamo had 9. Shots on target was 4-4. Possession, it was for the Dynamo. passes, the Dynamo had 595. They had 473. Accuracy, it was kind of leveled, 86 for Vancouver, 87 for the Dynamo. And then we go into fouls and everything else that for me, it didn't really make a huge difference in this game, at least. But if you really want to look at these teams in paper and really analyze, I think that, other people that follow MLS might have said, it's an outcome that we expected because the Dynamo has been losing. They haven't really shown that grit. They haven't really shown that identity that sometimes they want to sell, I guess, to a lot of the fans. That's, it's a hardworking
but if they
team,
want to
it's
make the
this and
playoffs
that.
like they said they should have won this game. They couldn't have had a better start, and they
Shoulda,
didn't
coulda,
take
woulda.
advantage. And look, and when you point, Vancouver was on a 5-game winning streak. 2 of those losses were at home. They lost to Chicago. They lost to Minnesota. I mean, again, Minnesota, one of the teams that Houston's competing or trying to compete. Let me rephrase that. To be in the playoffs, I just think there is larger problems here with Houston. We already know that. What can they do in the near term? There is some pieces to work with, I think. But simply the winning formula is not there. Whether that's coaching, whether that's the players, it's not clicking, right? And I think when we look now to the game against Montreal, geez, it looks tough, because Houston lost at home against Minnesota. Houston lost at home against Charlotte. They lost at home early in the year, but we're focusing on this current summer run, and they probably should have lost against Dallas, to be honest, if it wasn't for that late goal by Jadebe, right? If Jesus Ferreira had finished his chance prior to that, and it would have been a 3-1 Dallas win, we could be talking about it, maybe even a worse run here. They haven't been great at home. Now they got Montreal, who I don't think, under normal circumstances, we shouldn't be expecting them to win. But here we are, right? Wondering if what's going to be the response.
No. I don't agree. Whenever you play at home, at least this was a thing a couple, seasons ago, that you always expect, at least for me, I don't care how bad the team is. For me, I still, as a fan, at least as a person that's cheering on for the team when they're not covering it, or even as a journalist, I expect for the home team to always do an effort at least to win. And like you're mentioning, Montreal, right now they're I want to say in 3rd place in the Eastern Conference. And then, we have the Dynamo that is in 12th, place right now. So it's something that,
and
obviously,
again,
they might say it's not winnable, but you're at home. So you have a lot of advantages at home. Like, come on, you're
at home. There's been all this talk about the Heat. I think man for man, that you can kind of point some of the best players being on Houston. I mean, this should be 3 points. But what's going to be the reaction, right? And then you got 3 games on the road, boom, 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 right? At Colorado, which I don't think they're going to win. At Minnesota, I don't think they're going to win that one either. At Seattle, I sure as hell don't think they're going to win that one. Home to Kansas City, that should be a winnable game. But I honestly think the way Kansas City, they just won against LA Galaxy, I actually think Kansas City might jump them in the standings before this is all over. We'll see how that game ends up, right? Then they host New England, which again, a long distance team that should be a win, but it's a team that's a little bit farther better in the East, right? Last year they were the leaders of the Supporters Shield winners. In between here, I don't know why. Actually, before that Seattle game, I don't know why it does it on their schedule. This game against the home game against LAFC gets erased, but in between that Minnesota and Seattle game, there's supposed to be LAFC, right, coming to PNC. So now going back to September, that was end of August, going back to September after the New England game. That's the one where Houston goes to LA and Houston goes to Nashville to begin October, and then they end at home against the LA Galaxy.
So there's not a lot of time left to get those points.
Well, no, they're not going to win these games. Honestly, they're not. Something. No, what would have to happen? What would have to happen? All of a sudden, the coach has to unlock the best thing out of these players, right? And again, whether it's the coaching side of it, or whether it's these players not getting putting their best, something's got to give.
I think it's a combination of everything. I feel like
a combination, but it ain't gonna click for these last couple of games to win all of them in a row. Essentially, it's tough.
Look, all I
What do you
say,
think?
all I look when I've seen the Mighty Ducks, the Disney Channel, and if the Mighty Ducks
This
can
ain't
do it,
them.
I know you're gonna say something, but obviously, seriously talking, like I feel, you know, when I was we were in college together in U of H, and we used to go cover, right? We used to go cover the Dynamo when they were in the Robertson Stadium. The culture was very proud. So a lot of the players knew that they weren't mega all-stars. They knew that. But they also didn't mind proving, the media wrong, proving, other fans wrong, MLS analytics wrong, that they were a team that, it was built of workers. And I think that's something that I feel like, the Dynamo wanted to keep building on, but they didn't find the right pieces that wanted to do that,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So
they
it's
also have
now
talented
downhill from
guys.
that. So you can't sell the same thing
Yeah,
on, a fantasy
I,
that was true because you had the right pieces a couple
right.
years ago, many years ago, not a couple, many years ago. And that sounds beautiful and it's amazing, but teams evolve, the league has evolved, and I think that at some point the Dynamo kind of just stayed and kind of stalled in that nostalgia of, we want to be that team that's for the working class, that's for the people and things like that. But
But they're not.
they didn't
They're
get the
not for
right
the
pieces.
working
And that's what I'm
class.
saying. They didn't get the
They're
right pieces
ever since
because
they
the
moved
players,
to the new
I'm gonna be
stadium, they've been spoiled.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of the players are very spoiled, and I've seen it because we have gone into the locker rooms, we have done this, we have done that. It's not saying all the players, because I've interviewed a lot of players that are really, that aren't part of the team right now, but at that moment they were really upset that they weren't able to do better for whatever reason, and sometimes they had their hands tied because obviously it didn't have all the pieces to make that team function how it's supposed to, right? So I think that even in that, the team has kind of let a lot of good talent to waste because they haven't been able to really do it properly. Like let them grow as players and let them be, a part of a good culture to make it kind of grow. At some point, I'm trying to think when would I would say that the culture kind of just broke and just stalled.
When they moved to the new stadium, when everything was kind of sweet ride, right? The salaries went up. Guys didn't have to work as hard, or just there was a sense of trying to earn a place in the community. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
that relocation from San Jose to Houston, there wasn't a guarantee that they were going to get a stadium. There
Yep.
wasn't a guarantee that they were sticking around. Guys didn't want to move again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was an effort to try to make Houston everybody's home, and they did. They won people over. They got people out of Robertson.
Yep.
I do think it was also not it was an outgoing type of team, right? Again, any autograph, there was just an intimacy. Whether that's Robertson, I
Exactly.
think lost at PNC, formerly
But PNC
BBVA.
is small. It's very small compared to
Yeah,
other
but it's
stadiums that
got
aren't as homey. Come on, like this one, like you can
no, but
actually
it's
reach
a
the
nice
players.
stadium. It's very um
I still think it's very homey,
yeah,
honestly.
I think, for example, like when they came out to the tunnel, they came out you know there was a lot of fans, right, that would kind of go right there beside um the stands, right? That little like little downward
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Whenever they came out of the locker room and down and onto the field, right? A lot of fans that would line up there and kind of welcome them onto the field. I think some of that gets a little bit lost, but they only pass through that one section right now at PNC.
Hmm.
I do think a lot of guys, you can just see it in their body language. They just feel like
I'm
uh,
sure they're also tired of losing.
yeah, but I mean, not everybody has that humility, right? Of that old team. I do think also that team, um, did it was they were talented, but they were also the practice makes perfect kind of players,
Yeah, there
right?
was more. I think I would say,
There
and I
was
don't want
more
to
players staying
say,
after training.
and more fire. I think,
Right, to
in a
get better, to not
sense.
stay complacent. I think here everybody, it is the status quo. guys get paychecks as soon as training's over. Again, just from what I've seen this season, limited to 15 minutes, right? Whether it's at the end of training or at the beginning. Guys that walk off the field, it's like, all right, time to clock out. Sure, maybe they hit the weight room, but there's nobody really that puts in that extra effort. There's nobody that puts in that extra effort.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it. Some of the shooting drills, it's shameful. I mean, it's like, guys that are maybe it's self-confidence. I don't know. Maybe you got to get a psychologist into this team.
A sports psychologist, yeah, and that's proven. I mean, it's something that has been proven that it could
but I
help a
do think
mentality of a team.
a lot of it is attitude, because I went to one of these trainings right after the 6-0 loss against Philly, and it's still kind of we're still playing the same games, to start training, and
Mhm.
yeah, sure, whoever loses does push-ups, but there's still laughter, and I'm not saying it has to be completely miserable,
No, but I
but
understand. I
but
understand
you
what you're
just lost
saying.
six
I
nothing,
understand.
and it's
Yeah.
like
There has to be
we got
some
another
kind of
game this
like
week,
sadness and frustration, and there has to be some kind of feeling there too.
right? And maybe they just pretend for the 15-minute period that it's open to media. I
Yeah.
doubt it, but I mean, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
whatever, nobody cares. We just keep going. We're still in it. Here's the game this week. We're gonna try to win it, and we still think we have a shot. But there's no, I still, again, I go back to leadership, which I think that starts from the coaches.
Mhm.
It does have to do with some of the players. Some of the guys have to have some pride, right? I think um, it does have to come also from the top down. Again, if you're the owner of this team, how can you be happy or even just content with having these types of performances representing your city? One time is an accident, right?
Mhm.
Um, if this has happened and they were in third place, and it's just it's an accident, right? But this isn't an accident. This is a trend now with the Dynamo. um the summer has been tough, but that's been the story of every year. I go back to depth because I think um it's teams that don't prepare, right? How do you not pull up the schedule at the beginning of the year, right? And say, all right, this is going to be a tough stretch. These are the pockets where we can add players. So if we need to, right, we have until this date to do a roster freeze. Um, just how are we going to attack this? If we need to adjust here, where are the opportunities to bring in players? That's what they should be doing. None of this data BS, right? Or we think, I don't know, subbing off Sebas is going to make him, or putting him on, at the end of the games is going to make him a better player. No, I think you've seen that he's a guy that he played in Copa Libertadores. He's going off a tough stretch, right? A little bit of a goal drought now because of the lack of minutes. But you're telling me you're going to trust in that guy over, a guy coming out of the college system, which I get it. He works hard. I get it.
Mhm.
He runs a lot, but you know what? Not all of it is running either, right? I mean, geez, imagine if these guys coached Messi. You're not covering enough distance. Like, I mean, these are the kind of decisions that have to change. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of things there's never enough time for us
There is
to
never
dive into
enough
all of this.
time.
I was going into the academy last time, and again I went into a little bit last night with the guys at Dynamo Theory. To me, because I don't think it pisses off anybody else in this club, but to me, it's effed up, right?
Yeah.
That there was kids that were sold on being pros. They could have had a 4-year college degree, and
Or gone
instead
to
they
other
got
places, or gone
right.
to other leagues.
It just but because it was a marketing gimmick to get these guys up to the first team, and now we sort of have these guys in the same position. I get it's a different MLS; they get paid a little bit more, but um, what if Marcelo Palomino's not an MLS player? What if Juan Castilla doesn't? You know what I mean? What if they kind of fall in the same way of Memo or worse? Um, until we see that system, I mean, there's so many things we can dive into. My
I
point is,
think that, yeah, I think that we
somebody's
need to
got to take
have,
leadership.
yeah, we need to talk, we need to have a podcast just about the academy. I think that's something that we're gonna do pretty soon here. But before we let, all you guys go, before Victor has, some kind of heart attack or something else going on, I kind of wanted to end in a good note. Just to briefly talk about the Dynamo Charities, which is, from the Houston and the Dash side charities that aims to provide like support and awareness to different kinds of missions. So this weekend, the Dynamo Charities is going to donate, right? Donates a certain amount during the Houston Dash and Houston Dynamo games, August 12th and August 13th.
Yeah, so I think the proceeds of these tickets for the Dash play on Friday night against Racing Louisville or Racing, I don't know what.
Racing.
In the NWSL Friday night, Saturday night, Houston's hosting Montreal. And then Sunday, I think they have an event at Topgolf, which is already sold out. But so this whole weekend, they're going to raise money for Dynamo Charities. So that's a nice part of again, we've talked about how much they got to get into the community. If they're donating some of this money to the local community, yeah, it's great. I'm also going to do a cheap plug here for our friends. I think we have friends there at Bataillon. So Friday, this Friday, 8 p.m. Which I guess if you're not going to that, I don't know how that lines up. Anyways, Friday, 8 p.m. across the stadium, I think a Texas tailgate, right? They're having, I believe, their anniversary party, but they're having a school drive as well. So if you pull up with some school supplies, and they'll donate them to a local elementary school. So there's, or if you could actually probably just stop by before the Dash game and then just head over to the Dash game.
You can do both. You can do everything. This weekend is made for everything. And you're gonna have fun, and you're gonna be able to, give a child that needs school supplies something that they're gonna be able to utilize and get educated. So which is amazing. So you can go watch a game, get a drink, and help out the community all at the same time.
And if you're a Dynamo fan these days, you probably have enough alcoholic beverages in your system. Send us your questions next week. We don't want to keep on harping on the same. I mean, hopefully it's a victory, right? But assuming things keep going south, and there's no breaking news of any sort, which I doubt there will be. Send us your questions. How are you feeling out there about the Houston Dynamo? I think we can probably start looking at the end of the season a little bit. If there's we've answered some of your questions last week, but just at Victor Araiza on Twitter, at Laura Gomez News. If you have something for the next podcast, we can go over that.
But for this podcast, before we go, we were so into what we were talking about. We didn't mention about Tyler Pasher, who is no longer part of the Houston Dynamo, and there are rumors that he will be signing with the New York Red Bulls, apparently, but nothing has been officially confirmed. We don't know, but that's maybe where he's headed next.
Move they could have made a couple months ago, but we're trying to end the podcast.
Well, you didn't let me finish it positive.
You're gonna make me blow gasket.
I've been, I'm just doing, part of the reason that I'm doing this podcast is to really help you have the therapy that you need. So sometimes I just sit here and really.
I think all you do is you get me more
upset. No. But like you were mentioning before we say, bye. If you guys have, some questions, or if you have comments or some types of feelings, or are on the same level of frustration as Victor or myself, hit us up.
Let's keep the conversation going. Obviously, we've also done some of these like a day after the game Twitter Spaces. I know those have been building an audience a little bit in these last couple of games. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the mistake we've done in prior years, and I'm not just pointing it to us, but I think here in Houston is there hasn't been enough of a conversation of the downward spiral of the Houston Dynamo. And I think, it's enough, right? I mean, the only way this is going to end, and I think, there's fault for the previous ownership. I think there's things you can you can hold the current ownership and the current people in charge accountable. There's still some of the same staff that are, flow over from both. But overall, I think, send us your messages, your questions. A lot of you have been, I think, starting to bring up the increasing ticket prices. If you share with us your personal accounts, we can share them here if you want to do that anonymously. Again, our Twitter handles at Victor Araiza, at Laura Gomez News. And let's keep this conversation going, because that's the only way things are gonna change a little bit here, I think.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, I want to also invite you guys to follow the Striker on social media, on Twitter. There's a really good sale actually going on. If you subscribe, not only do you get access on things for the Houston Dynamo with Victor Araiza's reporting, but also there's a lot of things that we cover of the Houston Dash, other teams in Texas, and now that we've expanded, also teams in California for the NWSL and the MLS. USL. I mean, there's a lot of news, a lot of football, soccer news going on for a small price that helps people, reporters, journalists like myself and Victor Araiza be able to pay their light bills. And that's amazing. So I always say, support local journalism and, a local outlet that's really trying to bring you guys real and truthful information on your teams.
Yeah, trying to do as much daily coverage as we can. I think the code out there was All-Star 22 for this week. Try it. It might still work by the time you hear this podcast, because I don't know if it was a 2-day thing for the All-Star game, but it might still work for this weekend. And if it doesn't, I have another code you can probably use. So thestriker.com, check it out. We hopefully in better spirits will be here next week to talk about that Montreal game, and look forward to the Denver game, which I think a lot of fans are going to probably much more chill vibe, at least if the Dynamo
support the Dash
winning.
If you want to see people win.
Yeah, that's a good one. Farewell, Rachel Daly.
I don't even want to talk about that. I don't even want to.
But team's going on a good run here with Juan Carlos Amoros, and I think Dash finally, my personal opinion, Dash finally have a good coach, and so the sky's the limit this year. I'm saying hop on all these teams, at least in Mexico, everybody has like a thing, right? Like for example, the San Luis coach, right? Jardine. Everybody's like, súbense a la Jardineta, right? So I think we need to start something like that for Amoros.
Well, it could be like, there's always like the Dash on. So maybe it could be like some kind of like, what do you call the sleigh or something that sounds that's what I think of, Dash on. It's like a sleigh. So hop on the sleigh or something. I don't know. But if it trends, that's my trademark, everybody. Okay. If it's trending, it's mine.
I'm just saying, I don't know if it's a bus, a truck, what we're going to do, but hop on the Amoros bandwagon. I think this team is heading in a really, really good direction.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that it's been a lot of teamwork, not only with, Amoroso coming in, but also the work that has been done, prior to him arriving with the interim coach. So I think that it's something that it's really good to support local teams, especially if after, so many years of really trying to work and so close to making their first ever, playoffs. So hopefully they'll stay on track.
There we go. We'll catch you next week here inside the Hexagon on the Striker.
Bye.